Welcome back to Marvelous Videos. I'm Rylan, and today we will be looking at the Agent Venom origin explored. Peter Parker is surrounded by marvelous people even in his day-to-day life. One such person who we will be talking about today is his high school bully, Flash Thompson, a man who tormented and bullied Peter throughout high school. Not just Peter, but he was the sole reason why several others of his peers considered high school to be hell and did not even wish to attend classes.
What? Flash! Don't leave me here! Hey, I'm the strongest guy in school, but I'm no Spider-Man!
In fact, he was one of the most prominent and popular human antagonists in the Spider-Man series, alongside Jonah Jameson. However, after high school ended and Flash joined the Empire State University, he began to mature. He made new friends, his relationship with Peter improved, and he began to self-reflect a lot more as a person.
This whole thing was my idea, to pay tribute to my idol. I can't make him look...
With knowledge of his life at home, there's clearly an unfortunate side to the guy who was the most popular guy in high school. Flash was inspired by Spider-Man, and after joining the military, took part in heroic actions. One such act caused him to lose his legs, and all hope was lost until the government gave him the Symbiote.
Flash?
In this video, we will get into the journey of Flash Thompson, also known as Agent Venom. Before diving into the content, we would like to make a very small request to our viewers. Please subscribe to Marvelous Videos, like and comment on our videos, and press the bell icon to be notified whenever we upload a video. We will be definitely grateful to you and hope to bring you the best nerdy content. So, without further ado, let's get right into today's video.
You got armor? I can make better armor.
Agent Venom debut. The legendary writer Stan Lee had created Flash Thompson back in 1962 with Marvel artist Steve Ditko. The character made his debut in the world of Marvel in Amazing Fantasy Volume 1, issue number 15. Spider-Man was also a part of this issue, and following this, Flash Thompson went on to become a regular in the Amazing Spider-Man series for the first 4 years. After that, Flash Thompson left the cast and joined the Vietnam War in 1967. He would make occasional appearances in the Amazing Spider-Man series, but retained his status as a recurring character in 1972, with issue number 105. Flash Thompson was not overly good friends with Spider-Man at first, with Flash often being bitter towards Peter Parker, but their dynamic did get more cordial as time went by. However, the Amazing Spider-Man issue 138 saw a huge shift in this, when Flash allowed Peter to room with him after being turned away by most of his friends and acquaintances.
Parker, you're Spider-Man!
What? How did you?
I can't do it. You have to go on tonight.
The point of expanding on this character was to show that there was a different, more vulnerable side to Flash Thompson. This is explored in the July 1997 release of the spectacular Spider-Man #1, with the title, That Thompson Boy. We get to see how his Flash Thompson personality is a facade that hides the complex, wounded boy that is Eugene Thompson. Flash has to deal with the two very human sides of himself and strike the perfect balance. But this is just Flash, so let's talk about him as Agent Venom. As the new incarnation of Venom, Flash makes his debut in The Amazing Spider-Man number 654 in February of 2011, making him a relatively new addition to the universe. He got his chance to be the titular character in the second volume of Venom, which was released in May of the same year. As Venom, he became a regular character from 2010 to 2013 in the Secret Avengers series. He also appeared in the 2012 series Red Hulk's Thunderbolts. He goes to space in the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 number 14, and he ended up getting his own series called Venom: Space Knight, but unfortunately, it was cancelled after 13 issues.
Venom away! You can go now! Come on, I don't want you anymore!
Agent Venom origin. Flash Thompson was originally known as Eugene Thompson. He went to Midtown High School. He became a renowned football player in his school and boasted athletic prowess and amazing speed, earning him the nickname Flash. He was popular and had an easy school life as a teenager.
Spider-Man! Flash Thompson, I'm your biggest fan. Let me help, bro.
Definitely.
But there is more to it than meets the eye. His popularity and athleticism made him a victim of Harry's abuse, his alcoholic father. Harry was a police officer and he beat Flash regularly, degrading him despite his achievements, and he made his life extremely rough. The resentment piled up in Flash, and he resorted to taking it out on others by bullying them. His victims were often people who he considered to be weaker than him, which is why he referred to Peter as puny Peter Parker.
Hey. Come on, get up, Parker!
He dated Liz Allen in school, who was the school's most popular girl. But after Liz began to develop an attraction towards Peter Parker instead, a jealous Flash began to bully Peter even more exclusively. However, after Spider-Man entered the scene, Flash became his biggest fan, oblivious to Spider-Man's real identity. He graduated from Midtown and joined the Empire State University under sports scholarship. He befriended Gwen Stacy and Harry Osborn. When Flash tried to introduce Peter to his friends, Peter ignored them completely. Back then, Peter's mind was plagued by Aunt May's ailing health, so he was not aware of his actions and tended to live more in his head due to the stress. However, this made Harry and Flash interpret it as Peter being snobbish, making him a victim to Harry as well. Gwen tried to befriend him, and gradually he became part of Flash's circle. Through Peter, Flash also became friends with Mary Jane Watson. Before he could graduate from the Empire State University, Flash enrolled in the army to fight in the Vietnam War. When he was stationed in Southeast Asia, he fell in love with Shashan, a Vietnamese native. He bumped into her after returning to New York, but she was reluctant to talk to him. After trying to get the truth out, Flash learned that she was now a member of the supervillain organization called the Legion of Light, making her an enemy to Spider-Man. However, her husband, Ahmed Korba, or Brother Power, had forced her into this role, while Flash was able to help get her out with the help of Spider-Man and Razorback. Shashan became his girlfriend, but did not last. They got separated, and he succumbed to severe mental stress and acts of recklessness. He then began to go out with Betty Brant, closing his chapter with Shashan. Once, Flash had boasted about Hobgoblin being a coward on live television. This birthed a rivalry between the two. At that time, Roderick Kingsley wore the Hobgoblin mantle and wanted vengeance. So, he convinced people that Flash himself was the Hobgoblin. He did so by kidnapping Flash, dressing him in his attire, and brainwashing him to fight Spider-Man. Due to his lack of power and experience, Flash lost to Spider-Man easily. Hobgoblin's weaponry was found in his apartment, obviously planted by Kingsley, and Flash was sent to prison. In prison, the Scourge of the Underworld had targeted him. This group targeted costumed criminals, but Flash was ultimately saved by Spider-Man and the real Hobgoblin. He was able to clear his reputation in the end, with some help of Spider-Man, of course. Flash's footballer career unfortunately came to an end after he retained a severe arm injury following a battle with Jason McIndale's Hobgoblin. Flash resorted to alcoholism, as he was now both single and lacked job opportunities. Norman Osborn helped him stand up on his feet once again, and since he was the Green Goblin, he tried to change Flash's mind about Spider-Man. When he failed, Norman tried to kill Flash instead, and concealed the incident as an accident caused by Flash's alcoholism. However, Flash had survived, and he was put into a coma. After waking up from the coma, Flash became a gym teacher in Midtown High. Memory loss following the incident made him return to his old habits, like bullying Peter Parker, who was a science teacher in the same school. During the superhero Civil War, Peter's identity as Spider-Man was outed. Flash did not believe this, and assumed that Peter was just protecting Spider-Man. He finally believed it when he witnessed Peter protect the Midtown students against Mephisto. He was also kidnapped by Miss Arrow, a nurse he had flirted with. Miss Arrow was an evil counterpart of Spider-Man, who had chosen Flash to be his mate. Later, she wanted to kill him off, as she wanted to mate with Spider-Man instead. Flash rejoined the military years later. When his squad was ambushed in Iraq, he saved the commanding officer, but his legs sustained terrible injuries. Both his legs had to be amputated, and he was able to deal with the loss with the help of his friends. During this time, he began to see Betty Brant once again. Flash was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor for his courage, with which he had saved his commanding officer. He revealed that he did so because he was inspired by Spider-Man's heroism. He had also gained respect for Peter, and no one seemed to remember that Peter was, in fact, Spider-Man. However, his relationship with Peter became sour when Peter resorted to selling embarrassing pictures of Spider-Man for money after he lost his job.
I've dreamed every night for something like this to happen to me.
The Venom chose me. The Venom!
But how did he become Agent Venom? Well, for the answer to that question, we need to talk about what happened during the Siege of Asgard. Mac Gargan was separated from the Venom symbiote, and it fell into the possession of the US government. This was kept under the wraps and contained in the Department of Homeland Security. The government wanted to use the power of the symbiote to create a super soldier who would fight for the country. But the symbiote did not bond with any other host. The candidates all ended up dead. The government ended up approaching Flash Thompson with the offer, who went for it and bonded with the symbiote. He began to control the suit with the help of sedatives and his willpower. However, he would only be allowed to be Agent Venom for 20 missions, and he could never come into contact with the symbiote ever again, because they wanted to prevent Flash from being addicted to the suit. As Venom, his powers exceeded that of Spider-Man's. During this time, he fought formidable enemies like the Jack-o'-lantern, as well as Kraven the Hunter. When fighting Kraven the Hunter, he was poisoned. Meanwhile, Jack-o'-lantern had managed to capture pictures of Flash as he lay separate from the symbiote. Now, his identity was in jeopardy. Jack-o'-lantern used it to his advantage and kidnapped Betty Brant, causing Flash to lose control over the symbiote. He still fought with the sheer strength of his willpower and was able to bring it under control until he was intercepted by Spider-Man. Frustrated by the new obstacle in his path and Betty being taken hostage, he ended up losing control all over again and was overrun by his bitter feelings towards Spider-Man. The government saw them fight and Agent Venom's loss of control over the symbiote, so they decided to detonate the explosives that were implanted in him as a safety measure. However, the symbiote had already removed it, and he survived. In the end, he was able to procure the drugs required to control it, while Spider-Man saved Betty.
Agent Venom, reporting for duty. Yeah! Bring it! Yeah!
Agent Venom Major Story Arcs. Spider Island. Flash's father, Harry, was hospitalized after he began to suffer from cirrhosis of liver due to his alcoholism. Soon after, the spider infection began to spread all over New York City. Flash's father begged to speak with his son, but Flash couldn't do so as he had to deal with the crisis as Agent Venom. Flash fought Spider King, who was one of the Queen's henchmen, as he tried to prevent the infection from spreading to New Jersey. He managed to incapacitate Spider King with help from gravity. The identity of the Spider King was revealed to be Steve Rogers, also known as Captain America. Flash was ordered to mimic his appearance using the powers of the symbiote and infiltrate the Queen's base to kill her. Before he could kill her, however, a clone of the Jackal appeared and spoke about how Eddie Brock, the former host of the symbiote and presently Anti-Venom, was able to cure the patients. The Queen ordered the Spider King mimic to kill Anti-Venom, and Flash left immediately. He notified the Future Foundation about it, and was asked to revive Anti-Venom so that Horizon Labs could concoct a cure for the infection as well. After dealing with the situation and taking Brock to the designated lab, Flash met with his dying father at the hospital, and they were reminiscing about their good times together, until Harry Thompson passed away in front of Flash. He goes back to assassinate the Queen, but is pushed by her sonic scream, the very thing the symbiote is vulnerable to. Steve Rogers joined him in this fight against the Queen, and ultimately, after the rejuvenated clone of Peter Parker, Kane, added his help. The Queen was finally killed. Flash later fought the hijacker when he returned. After the Spider People had turned back to normal humans, he wanted to rob several banks and then quit forever. As his tank ran over a security guard, a mother and a child, Flash lost control over the symbiote and ended up killing the hijacker by viciously mauling him, biting his head, and spitting it out.
Game time!
You're so not awesome.
Minimum Carnage. Flash encounters Kane, the Scarlet Spider, during a mission where he has to bring in Carnage, who has kidnapped Katie Kiernan, the reporter. He follows Kane into the Microverse to find Carnage, but wakes up being attacked by sonic screaming pixies. He loses control over the symbiote again, but is brought back via the whistling of a sonic pixie. He is captured by the Enigma Force and learns that Carnage was also captured as well. It is revealed that the symbiotes were a cancer to the Enigma Force's power, and they were expelled from the Microverse. Marcus Radu wanted to use the symbiotes to create an army to kill the real god of the Microverse, the Redeemer. Radu tried to use both of them to create a hybrid symbiote. The two symbiotes fight brutally until Kane shows up with the Redeemer. Flash realizes that he can control Carnage, as Venom is its parent symbiote, but for that, he has to reawaken Venom's mind. He succeeds at doing so and defeats the hybrids and Carnage. However, Carnage seeps through the floor and is dispelled from the Microverse as it escapes. Flash comes back to Houston with Kane and Katie, and encounters a restored Carnage. They manage to defeat it, but Flash prevents Kane from killing Carnage, as it was in a catatonic state.
Hold on, Rhino. I gotcha.
Evil inside us all, and moving to Philadelphia. Flash defeats a group of people who worship the devil. Flash also begins to reflect on his own life and the consequences of his actions, both as a bully and as Agent Venom. Controlled by the symbiote, he wreaks havoc on a devil worshipper and his own mother. A pentagram is seemingly visible in the symbiote. Flash talks to Peter about himself and is told that he made school life a living hell for many. As a result, Flash decided to move to Philadelphia. He becomes their version of Spider-Man and also works as an assistant gym coach at a high school. He encounters a strange creature that was eating people and defeats it. Eddie Brock returns as Toxin, and the two fight brutally, but Eddie clearly had the upper hand with his superior symbiote. In the end, Flash manages to escape, but returns home in a terrible state. When a student of his offers to help him, Flash asks her to leave, as he doesn't want to form bonds with people and be the reason why they get hurt. The cannibalistic creature is on the loose, infecting more and more humans, and attacks the school where Flash worked. Eddie Brock shows up, and the creature tried to kill both Venom and Toxin, but they managed to win the battle. Katie Kiernan approaches him later with knowledge of his presence when the school was saved by Venom and Toxin. He dismisses her and lies about not having seen much of the fight, but when he is attacked by Lord Deathstrike and Constrictor, and a bounty is put on his head, he contacts Katie for her help.
Whatever, Rhinoso nerd. At least I'm a team player. Always the same. Still just a...
Jack returns. Flash meets Katie incognito, dressed as an elderly woman. He tries to network around the city, and he finds his student Andy and her father being chased by Jack-o'-lantern. He tries to stop the villain, but Jack stabs Andy's father, leaving a mortal wound in his chest. He then tries to kill Andy off with poison bombs, when an enraged Flash extends the symbiote to protect Andy. However, part of the symbiote bonds with her, and she turns into Maniac. Together, they defeat Jack-o'-lantern, but realize that the person inside was someone else who was hypnotized by Jack's powers and memories. He soon escapes, and Jack follows suit with Andy. However, they fall into a trap and are surrounded by gunned assassins. The two web up the assassins and go their separate ways. Thunderbolts. Flash is approached by General Thunderbolt Ross during a mission in Somalia. He is asked to join Ross's Thunderbolts, an association that worked on the philosophy, if the infection cannot be cured, it has to be cut out. Flash ends up working with Deadpool, Punisher, and Elektra. Working as a team had resulted in an increase in Venom's appetite for rage, so Flash had to go a mile and above to keep it under control. Ross told them that they can choose a mission and have the team support them, so Flash decided to let the symbiote take over and test its abilities against the rest of the Thunderbolts. Even though Venom was a strong adversary for the team, the Thunderbolts managed to subdue it. Ross used Hulk's supersonic claps, which separated Venom from Flash. The symbiote was detained by Ghost Rider's Hellfire chains, and it made Flash content that his teammates could control him. He rebonded with the symbiote and promptly left the team.
Bro, if you're pretending to sleep, now is not a good time. Move!
Guardians of the Galaxy. Flash is asked to join the Guardians of the Galaxy by Tony Stark as a representative of the Avengers in space. He goes on several adventures with them and visits the planet of the symbiotes. Here, the symbiote is cured of its rage, and it evolves into something new. He returns to Earth when the Guardians get stranded on the planet after the second civil war of the superhumans. During a fight with a government agent, Flash loses the symbiote after it runs wild and abandons him. In the end, it returns to Eddie Brock.
Time he barely scratched me, and I was out for weeks, so I'm going with yes.
The new Anti-Venom. Andy's Maniac is stolen from her, and Flash suspects that this is the same culprit responsible for separating him from Venom. He finds Venom rebonded with Eddie Brock in the Alchemex Tower. The two fight, with Flash relying on the remaining symbiote particles for strength. Unable to understand whom to bond with, the symbiote encompasses both Flash and Eddie. Spider-Man arrives to help and overturns a serum that is meant to kill the organism. However, the serum results in the portion of Flash's side of the symbiote to turn white. It had abilities such as purging toxins, poisons, infections, and could heal physical injuries. Flash dubs it as the Anti-Venom. Meanwhile, Lee Price, a man who was bonded with Venom right before the symbiote had left Flash and before it was rebonded with Eddie, was now the host of Maniac. Flash took him on with the help of Spider-Man and Venom, and was able to subdue Maniac with Spider-Man's blood sample, which helped him develop anti-Maniac immunity.
Maybe Scarlet tricked us into bringing his army inside the Triskelion, just like Toe Jam.
Venomized. Flash is summoned by Alchemax as they needed his help to deal with an invasion of poisons, an alien species that used symbiotes to attack superpowered humans. Alchemax wanted to render the poisons harmless, using Flash's anti-symbiote powers. Flash believed that the symbiotes were also victims of the poisons, just like humans. He went to confront and interrogate a symbiote with Spider-Man and Venom when he encountered a Venomized Punisher. He uses his powers on him, but it melted the symbiote with no traces of the Punisher. Now concerned about hurting people, Flash retracted from the fight. Meanwhile, a Venomized Thanos attacked his Quinjet. He found the other Venomized superhumans there and ended up killing the creation of Kid Kaiju because he saw no other option. In the end, Queen Poison was killed, and the poisons of Earth had died.
I trust him, Flash.
I hate to say it, Spider-Bro, but this time, I'm not sure that...
Threat level red. Flash began to work as security for Liz Allen's company after he was blackmailed to do so. He teamed up with Spider-Man after Goblin King stole their resources. The body of the Goblin was found dead and tied up to J. Jonah Jameson, who informed the nightclub where he was found that Norman Osborn had bonded with Carnage and turned into the Red Goblin. Norman Osborn had injured several people, including friends of Spider-Man, such as Human Torch and Miles Morales, as the Red Goblin. Agent Venom tried to heal them, but became vulnerable to the Goblin's attacks. He was hospitalized when he learned that Peter Parker was Spider-Man, and soon left the hospital to join him. Spider-Man had bonded with the Venom symbiote and fought the Red Goblin. Flash tried to purge Carnage, but was mortally wounded. Spider-Man gave in to Venom's anger, but was talked out of it by a dying Flash. Following his death, he got a military funeral with honors.
Eyes, mine, on you, is what this thing that I'm doing with my fingers means.
King in Black. Following his death, Flash entered the symbiote hive mind due to his connection with the other symbiotes. There, he teamed up with Rex Strickland's army of previous hosts of symbiotes from when Null had invaded Earth. After Eddie had died fighting Null, Flash recruited him into the army. However, after Eddie's son Dylan dissolved the symbiotes and freed the hosts, a portal opened in the hive mind to where Flash and Eddie were. From there, they were able to see symbiotes beyond the portal and learned that they were being imprisoned after losing their connection to Null. Flash decided to enter the portal to free the symbiotes. He bonded with one of them and returned to the land of the living. This time, he was a symbiote dragon. He flew to the cemetery where he was buried, while the other symbiote dragons were becoming unstable due to Null's death. He bled out on his graveyard and reanimated his body with his powers and abilities. Revived, Flash laid low, especially with the people harboring anti-alien sentiments. However, a barista bonded with the symbiote and fought the guardsmen, who intended to kill all surviving symbiotes. Flash got caught in the crossfire. While fighting the guardsmen, someone clicked pictures of him on their camera, with Flash's face exposed.
All I'm saying is he's still the most likely suspect.
So why take chances? I say we lock him up with the rest of his family.
Extreme Carnage. Flash got a job at a veterans shelter where Tony Stark came to his aid after he psychically linked with Carnage unintentionally and lashed out at a worker. Iron Man needed him to help with the looming symbiote threats ever since Null was defeated. Flash and Tony tracked Carnage, who was bonded to Senator Peter Crane. Meanwhile, Andy was locked up in Alchemax, and the guardsmen had reached her. Flash tried to bust her out, but she was gutted by Phage, a symbiote bonded with Crane's head of security. Andy could be saved if Dr. Steven spliced her symbiote with anti-venom antibodies. It turned her into a new symbiote called Silence. Andy connected to Toxin's void with her new powers and invited Toxin and the host Bren to help Flash with his mission. They also learned that Crane's campaign was being used as a cover to assassinate him. The Sleeper also joined them, and together they fought off the symbiotes. They tried to contain them at Alchemax, but Carnage and Agony slipped away.
What are you doing here, Flash?
It's Venom, Agent Venom, and I'm here to do a little extra credit.
Flash Thompson, also known as Agent Venom, powers and abilities. As Agent Venom, Flash has the same abilities as Spider-Man, such as enhanced strength, speed, durability, and an ability to crawl the walls. He also could generate his own webbing, which Spider-Man could not do. His speed was fast enough to dodge bullets from machine guns. His strength was good enough to tear off turrets from tanks. He could generate tendrils from his suit and hold multiple weapons with it. He can also change the shape of his suit, create bladed weapons, and use it for self-disguises. The symbiote also allowed himself to be healed. He could regenerate missing body parts such as eyes and heal after being disemboweled. The Venom suit also creates legs for Flash, which he had lost during his time in the army. Flash can use sedatives and sheer willpower to manipulate the symbiote's control over him. However, when he's angry, he loses control and gives it the upper hand. This also happens when he's in the Venom suit for over 48 hours. He also becomes a bit stronger and bigger when Venom takes over, with the bloodlust for killing anything in its way. As Anti-Venom, Flash has the same powers as Venom, as well as several more. Firstly, it is caustic to the Venom symbiote, so prolonged contact can kill it. Secondly, it is lethal for the poisons. Thirdly, it can heal humans by purging them from their unnatural impurities, such as poisons, toxins, drugs, and diseases. It can also help with physical injuries as well.
Let me give you one!
Flash also possesses the spider sense immunity, adaptive camouflage, genetic memory, constituent matter generation, constituent matter manipulation, as well as night vision. Prior to gaining superpowers, Flash was a skilled marksman, trained to be a sharpshooter by the US Army. He was also a boxer and a soldier, so he had seasoned combat skills, making it easier for him to use the symbiote's power. Agent Venom, appearances in films and animated TV series. Flash has appeared in several films and animated television series in the media. He has appeared in all the Spider-Man films as different actors, alongside Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland in all their respective Spider-Mans. In the 2002 Spider-Man, Flash was portrayed by Joe Manganiello, where he was Mary Jane's first boyfriend. He was portrayed as a bully who annoyed Peter, and went to the same high school as Peter and Harry Osborn. He re-enters in Spider-Man 3 in a cameo during Harry Osborn's funeral. In The Amazing Spider-Man, Chris Zylka portrays Flash, where he bullies Peter Parker. However, he stops doing so after the death of Uncle Ben. In Spider-Man Homecoming, Spider-Man Far From Home, and Spider-Man No Way Home, Flash is portrayed by Tony Revolori. He is Peter's bully, but this version is a lot wealthier and smarter than the other Flashes. Here, he is of Latino descent. He was snapped by Thanos during the blip, has neglectful parents who do not pick up his phone calls, and is a Spider-Man superfan who begins to claim to be best friends with Peter after Mysterio outed him as Spider-Man. In television animated series form, Flash appears in Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, the legendary Spider-Man the Animated Series, Spider-Man the New Animated Series, the Spectacular Spider-Man, the Ultimate Spider-Man, and Marvel's Spider-Man. Every series depicts him as a bully, well, more or less. Some take it higher, while some dilute it. In Marvel's Spider-Man, for instance, he is seen introspecting over his actions that have caused others harm. The series since the Spectacular Spider-Man has shown Flash with his superpowers as Agent Venom. The movies are yet to show Flash as anything more than just a mere side character. Flash, or Agent Venom, appears as a playable character in the video game series Marvel Superhero Squad Online and Spider-Man Unlimited. He is an ambush enemy in Marvel Contest of Champions and a team-up character in Marvel Heroes 2016.
Don't play tough. Call for help. I'll rein in Rhino.
Hey!
Will we see Agent Venom in the upcoming Spider-Man movies? Spider-Man No Way Home has taken over the theaters by storm, bringing old and new fans to Spider-Man all together. With the introduction of the multiverse, the talk of the town has only gotten bigger and bigger. People are discussing newer characters who may be introduced, different universes colliding, and trying to scourge through the Easter eggs to get tea on Venom. As we all know, the symbiote has appeared in the Spider-Man series before, namely Spider-Man 3, Venom, and Venom, Let There Be Carnage. But so far, it has not been part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but it will definitely be a part of it since the post-credits of Spider-Man No Way Home does introduce the symbiote, along with Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock. In the post-credits of Venom Let There Be Carnage, Eddie Brock and his lethal protector were warped into the MCU, and in No Way Home, he is seen drinking at a bar. Before he warps out, however, a fragment of his symbiote is unintentionally left behind in the universe. So we will definitely be seeing Venom, or a variant of the symbiote, in action in the MCU coming soon. It is possible for Marvel to bring Flash Thompson into the scene now. With MJ and Ned joining MIT, it is likely that they will befriend Flash, making him more prominent in the universe. However, Tony Revolori's Flash is nowhere near the Flash in the comics, who has gotten the symbiote, in the sense that the Flash in the comics went to war, came back, went back to war, did a heroic deed, and lost his legs before acquiring his superpowers. It would be hard for the MCU to turn him into Agent Venom at this point, but only time will tell if that's what's about to come. What did you think of Flash Thompson, or Agent Venom for that matter? If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to send a like, comment on our video, and let us know your thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Until next time, have a good one, be safe, and thanks for watching.
Okay, touchy-feely moment is over. Now get off my stage so I can give these people the thrill ride they paid for.